Senate Agriculture Committee members continue to host hearings in hopes of gaining perspectives of past and future successes for the 2018 Farm Bill. Today, they hear testimony on agriculture research. RFD-TV's D.C. Bureau Chief Sarah Mock joins us in Washington.
Hi, Janet. Great to talk to you today. That Senate hearing was going on today, but we actually got pulled away at the last minute because Secretary Sonny Perdue is having his very first task force on agriculture and rural prosperity today. So we headed over there to meet with Sonny Perdue and a veritable who's who of people, of cabinet level secretaries and their representatives. Secretary Sonny Perdue was joined here at the USDA this morning by two other cabinet level secretaries, but also Mick Mulvaney, the director of the Office for Budget Management, our trade representative Robert Lighthizer, Ajit Pai, the chairman of the FCC, and pretty much representatives from across the federal government, from defense to commerce to health and human services. It was great to see so many people around the table have a very personal connection to rural issues and rural communities. And Secretary of Energy Rick Perry actually kicked off his comments by describing the impact of rural developments he's seen in his career.
I grew up in a house that didn't have running water, still had a carbide plant outside of the old house. When REA came, it made a difference. When farm to market roads were built, they changed people's lives forever.
Beyond these personal anecdotes, there was also a few around the table who were able to drill down on the topics that this task force is really about, namely creating more economic prosperity and improving the quality of life in rural America.
What are the barriers, what are the lids, what are the limits, or the governors, if you will, on economic growth in each of our sectors? And we answer that question in 4 ways, each of which have been touched on in the conversation already this morning: in access to trade in new markets, access to a reliable, legal, and qualified workforce, regulatory reform, and investments in infrastructure.
During his opening statements, however, Secretary of Housing and Urban Development Ben Carson made a point that I think a few people in rural America will relate to.
We cannot expect to just fix things remotely in conference rooms in Washington. Instead, we must give the ability back to local governments, charities, fraternities, faith-based organizations, and others to strengthen their neighbors as they know best. I look forward to combining our efforts to build a society where no family is forgotten, no generation is lost, a society with homes, jobs, education, and opportunity for all, and a society where people can disagree without becoming violent enemies, a society where every one of our fellow citizens may fully share in the American dream.
We were able to catch up with Secretary Perdue at the end of the meeting today, and he reiterated what he said during his opening statements, which were that this was indeed an executive order and not an executive request, and that he would be laser focused over the coming months on action and, of course, measuring the results of those actions. He also let us know that later today, the very first working groups on specific parts of this task force will be meeting, and, of course, all of this is getting together that report for the president that's due in that 180-day window. So first steps have been made. We'll see how it goes. Janet?
Well, thank you very much, Sarah. We appreciate your coverage there. Again, that's our Washington, D.C. News Bureau Chief Sarah Mock reporting live from USDA on Capitol Hill.